Hello everybody. It's been just over a month since I last posted my video of welcoming you to our infertility journey. And since tomorrow is Infant and Pregnancy Loss Awareness Day, which is October 15th for the province of Ontario, I figured I would make a video and share a little bit more about our miscarriage, because I kind of touched on it a little bit in the previous video, and then obviously looked like I was gonna have a meltdown for obvious reasons, and so I figured I would see how well this went. I actually tried to record something on the weekend, and you could just see like the progress of every take. Like, I'm getting blotchier, I'm getting, more upset because it's not fun to talk about. And I'm gonna try to catch this video, or make this capture this video before the sun sets. So okay, so just to cover off a little bit of what happened with my husband and I, we conceived in December, and found out that we were pregnant on December 26th, so Boxing Day. Last year, we conceived twin baby girls. They were Momo twins through an IUI process. So if you don't know much about Momo twins, what they are is basically there's an egg and a sperm, and instead of the egg actually breaking in half, the embryo breaks in half. So our girls were not Siamese twins, they were Momo twins, but they had to share everything, basically. They had one sac, or one placenta, one yolk sac, and their demise was due to cord entanglement. So the moment we found out we were pregnant with Momo twins, the doctors actually warned us that fetal or embryo demise is pretty high. The expectation of survival is around 30%, and if one twin doesn't make it, often the other twin out of a Momo set will not make it. So our girls were very active, and they made it to 19 weeks before they got too tangled up and their heart stopped beating. We found out it was around when you get your 20-week ultrasound, we were going to learn the gender and whatnot, and that was a really, really shit experience. But the reason I want to share my story is, one, miscarriage is not something, I'm holding my finger, miscarriage is something that happens everywhere. It's interesting that in North America it seems a little bit more hushed. I work with people from all around the world, and definitely different cultures look at miscarriage differently. So I just kind of find it quite fascinating from a cultural standpoint. But so I went in for the ultrasound because I figured, nothing was going to be wrong. The doctor said that if we were going to lose them, we'd probably lose them pretty early on. We had some other complications along the way. One of them, it looked like she didn't have much of a nasal bone, and the other one actually had a large nuchal translucency at the back of her neck, which for most doctors, that's a red flag for Down syndromes. So we did all the testing required and proved that they did not have Down syndromes. They were actually 100% perfect little girls. So like, we got past that in the pregnancy, which is, it's one of those things where it's like complicated, even more complicated. I don't know what this motion was, but either way, we went from being told you're having twins to you're having Momo twins to your Momo twins might have a genetic disorder to we can't find heartbeats. A little sad. I think I'm doing pretty good at holding my shit together right now. What do you think? Yeah? Okay. So, went in for that ultrasound. Had one tech come in. She couldn't see anything, but she didn't say anything either. She was a little bit younger, so she went and got an older tech, who then also couldn't see much of anything happening, who also wasn't speaking to me. But by that point, when you have two techs come into the room, they're both quiet. you expect something's wrong, and then they actually sent in the X-ray technician expert man. Sorry, I'm a little bad with remembering professions of the individuals I met along the way. I apologize, but he came in and did the final ultrasound and then told me that there were no heartbeats. And in that moment, I don't even know how I functioned. I called my husband. I wasn't even crying. Literally just said, worst case scenario. And he said, yeah. And I'm like, yep, no heartbeats. Now I'm going to go back to our regular doctor's clinic because I went to, I was actually at Mount Sinai in Toronto, which is an amazing hospital. And I was going to the Women's College Hospital to get the ultrasound done. And they're not very far apart because so I parked at one hospital and just walked to the other because it was like 5-10 minute walk, not even. But then I had to walk back to my doctor at Mount Sinai, and I made it all the way into the clinic, up to the counter, checked in, sat down, perfectly fine. And then the moment the nurse grabs me, I just crack. And then she got mad. Well, not mad at me, but she got upset because typically they would tell them. They would tell the clinic before the patient arrives what they had found. And she, was ready for action. It was amazing. Hold on. Tissues. Okay. Either way. This lovely nurse grabs me, throws me into a room. My husband's on his way from work because I went on my own because I thought, they made it this far. They're gonna make it. Like, they literally only had about 6 to 7 more weeks of needed gestation before they could potentially be pulled out, which isn't that long when you've already been pregnant for 5 months. So the doctor there reconfirms, and then sorry guys, I'm trying really hard. But then the doctor reconfirms no heartbeats. And then after that, it's just this instant people jumping into action. And I know that our miscarriage experience was unique because we actually had very good hospital care and lots of caring people around us. But so basically what the hospital did is they secured a private room for me. They said the miscarriage would take about 24 hours for it to come to a full conclusion, because so what we had, just so if you're not up on all the types of miscarriages that can happen, because there are multiple, or there are more than one. So there's a standard miscarriage where you bleed, which is a sign that you're losing the baby. And then, that's the one that you read about most often in books. And I actually had what was called a missed miscarriage. So my body had no idea that I had lost them. Which is kind of creepy, but that's cool. So basically I had been carrying them around for, cause they were actually delivered at 19 weeks and 4 days. So for 4 days, there were no little heartbeats. Am I doing okay? Yeah. I mean, I'm basically crying. And I do this frowny mouth thing that makes me look like my dad. And I'm trying not to cry, but continue talking. But he doesn't cry. So either way, we were given so many options when it came to the miscarriage. We were taken into a private room. We had 2 nurses assigned to us. One was named Christine, and the other was named, I feel like such a horrible person. Oh no. Okay, I can't remember your name, but Christine. I gave them lovely thank you cards because they have a really tough job to do. So either way, we were sitting there and they gave us options. They came in and explained what was going to happen. They had to induce labor, which required a medicine to be administered vaginally, which is a really awesome way to meet new doctors, let me tell you. What's even better is to super embarrass your husband and look at him after the first administration of the medication and be like, there shall be no finger foreplay in our future for a while. Okay. He was mortified. The nurse laughed. It was all good. But they walked us through what the process was going to be like. I think one of the funny things that it's not funny, sorry. Descriptive word. One of the interesting things about miscarriage is when you think about it, you always think, yeah, you lost a baby. But when you're going through it, you're actually going through labor. And then you have your partner sitting next to you who's watching you go through labor, knowing the end result. I think about my husband and I get super cry because I love him and he's awesome. And he puts up with my shit because he's awesome. So, we were in the hospital. They administered the medication. I pretty much got every symptom possible that the medication could offer, from vomiting to diarrhea. It was real great. Real proud moments in my life. But I think one of the... See, I'm gonna cry because I want to talk about my husband again. Okay, so one of the really key things that the nurse said to my husband, because I was going through it, and when you're a woman and you're going through it and you just have to get it done, like, you don't have any other option. You have these babies inside of you and they've got to come out. And so C-section, not an option. I had to deliver them, which I think I did pretty awesome in that, but I'll get to that in a moment. But the nurse was sitting there talking to my husband and said, your wife is going to go through everything. And not to say that isn't going to be hard, but the hard part is you're going to have to watch. And I didn't realize it in that moment. But after we told people that we'd miscarried, and I did this, super casually through Facebook because we hadn't even told anybody we were pregnant. Because of all the risks that we knew of. We didn't want to, get people's hopes up. But then after we lost them, I put this post out explaining the whole story because I had to. But the sad thing is the number of people that reached out to my husband, or the people that approached my husband to give him their condolence, was so few, because everybody comes to the woman. And I get it. I mean, I was the one carrying them. But to watch him have to watch people not necessarily think about him in this moment, it just broke my heart. So it meant a lot to me that the nurses actually spent time talking with him and engaging him in conversation and going through the process, because I may be crying now, but when we were at the hospital, I think I'm just a hard ass sometimes, where I go into this defensive mode where I have to joke about things, or when I'm mad I don't really react, or name babies inappropriately. For those of you who don't know, we named our daughters Archibald and Ferdinand because I was mad that we hadn't picked out names, because we knew there was a possibility of losing them. So while we were at the hospital, like I said, Mount Sinai was great for us. We actually live on the other side of the country from all of our family, and all of our friends, for the most part, and the friends that we do have, the ones that could visit did come and see us in the hospital.
that night. But the majority of them were, or majority of people that I know that are my friends from, were on a work trip. So it was mostly just us there by ourselves. And the nurses would come in and check on us, and there was no questions asked about visiting time or anything we needed. We got instantly, because it's, what else are you gonna do, right? And like I said, I understand most places, or some places, don't have such great programs. And I know really strong women who have gone through miscarriages that were just completely different from what I went through. And one of the interesting things with miscarriages is that when you are thinking about someone else's miscarriage, you at least think, oh, well, at least that didn't happen to me. And it's really weird to be thinking that. But I have a friend who miscarried outside of the country, and she miscarried sooner than I did, around 11 weeks or so, which is still later, but not as late as myself. But in her mind, she's thinking, thank God I didn't miscarry so late on like me. And I'm thinking, oh, thank God I was in the country when this happened. Because I don't know if I could be as strong about it if I didn't have the lovely people at the Mount Sinai antenatal unit looking after us. Because, yeah, so, I mean, like, let's talk a little bit more about the miscarriage. I was saying earlier that they gave us options when the nurse came into the room to walk us through what they offered. It's really interesting what they offered for miscarriage, and to explain to us how it would work, because our girls were only 19 weeks. If a fetus is over 21 weeks, you actually are required to bury them or cremate them or have a funeral in the province of Ontario. So because they were smaller than, or younger, smaller, tiny, they didn't qualify for that. So the hospital actually took care of the cremation for us, so we didn't have to worry about finding a funeral home, because that's a thing. And then they told us that they can take stamps of their hands and their feet and take photos of them after they came out. I was certain when I was delivering them that I didn't want to see them, or I didn't know if I wanted to see them. I knew. Guys, I hope you enjoy my snotty noises. But I did know that I wanted to have pictures of them. I wasn't sure if I could hold them, and I wanted stamps of their hands and their feet. So, me and all my infinite good timing, I was laying in the bed, and it was probably about 3 p.m., and I felt like the medication wasn't working anymore. I remember looking at my wrist going, like, I see it dripping, but this is getting intense. And then I got up and was like, you know what, I have to pee anyways. And my husband's like, okay, I'm gonna go to the washroom too. And he runs outside because he can't use the facilities in the room because it's for patients only. So I go to the bathroom, I do my thing, and obviously flush the toilet, stand up. If you don't know if you're going to miscarry in a hospital, they actually, and I don't know if this is true for when you deliver as well, but they actually put like little cups into the toilet so that in case you deliver on the toilet, the baby falls into the cup. So like, I moved the cup, did my thing, put the cup back, and then all of a sudden I just felt like this huge cramp that wasn't like anything I'd ever felt before, and I pulled the cord out of the wall, and these 4 nurses come running in, and I'm just standing there being like, I think this is happening. And they're like, okay, great. And I'm like, but hold on, what are your names? Because in that moment, what was important to me was knowing the names of the ladies that were going to be looking at my vagina, because it made sense. The nurse had said that basically delivering would go from 0 to 60, and she kept trying to like be encouraging because it had actually taken quite a while for the medication to kick in and dilate. And the last time the doctor had checked me, which was about an hour before I was in the washroom, they said I was nowhere near delivering. So when I was delivering, and the nurse was like, okay, just push, and like one came out and then the other one came out, and then I was really lucky and the placenta came out in total, and I'm just standing there in this bathroom, and obviously you bleed when you deliver. And I look down, I'm like, oh my god, that's a lot of blood. And they're like, no, it's actually quite great, but can I get you to sit down on the toilet? And I'm like, okay, cool. So I sit down on the toilet, and they're like, okay, we're just gonna clean you up. And I'm like, oh, thank god I introduced myself to you. And then there's my husband standing kind of in the hallway / doorway, because he had gone to the bathroom and had come back, and all this was happening, and the nurses bundled up our girls and took them away. And then comes the great moment where they like give you the biggest freaking pad you're ever gonna wear in your life, in some medical underwear, where it's like medical underwear, pad, and then you know, one of those mats that they put like the surgical tools on, fold it up a little bit and then put in there, and then they just tell you to put that on. And so while they were checking up on me, because, you know, glorious moments, this is kind of part of pregnant or delivering anyways, like you're just laying there, and the nurse will come in and say, I have to check your pad, and you're like, okay, cool, great, I have nothing else to lose, just go for it. And so in that moment, we decide that we want to name our girls. Well, not in the moment. Like after they check me and they say everything looks like it's going okay, they're going to come back and do blood. And I had asked for the photos and the stamps. They come in, or they come back. No, they come back with these little cards with their little tiny feet on, which just so little. And that they ask us who is who. So in that moment, we name them. And then I decide that I want the naming ceremony that they offered to begin with. And I want to have the hospital preacher come in and say a prayer. And we're not religious at all. It just was just a moment of, I want to do everything for you that I can. Guys, I think I'm doing pretty okay. I'm slowly losing the light. So earlier in the day before, when we were first sitting in the hospital, and they were talking, the nurse was talking to us about our options, and she had mentioned the naming ceremony. And after she had walked out, I looked at my husband, Matt, and I'm like, what are we gonna do? Name them Archibald and Ferdinand? Because I was mad. And then after seeing their little feet, my husband said, well, you know, we can change the bold to Bell. And Ferdinand has an Ann in it. Because he's lovely. So, that's how our girls ended up being called Archibald and Ferdinand. Because I was mad, and my husband is awesome. So we saw the little feet stamps, and then I lost my shit, and I had to see them, and I kind of felt, you know, there's these moments in your life where you feel like a monster, and that was one of my moments. Not everybody has these moments or the same moments, but I felt like a monster ever having thought that I didn't want to see them after having carried them for 5 months. And then they brought them in, and they brought them in this wicker basket, like this cute white wicker basket, and they were so little, and they were bundled up together in this beautiful handmade pink blanket that had been donated. And we get to hold them, and we do the naming ceremony, and there's a prayer said, and I don't remember any of the words actually said, And then the nurse comes in with this little bear. Because, oh, hold on. Because we know we're not going to go home or with our girls. So they send us home with this little bear. And then they offered to let us take the blanket they were wrapped in. But that was theirs. If you don't know much about me, you should know that I make baby blankets. And I feel there's so much power in a handmade baby blanket for a newborn. And so it was important for me that they had that. We got this little bear. And this bear had actually been donated by a family who had lost their child in July of 2015 at 39 weeks. And I'm sitting there with my little beasties, and they weren't fully formed, which is why I won't show you a photo of them. I mean, they were 19 and a half weeks. They had everything where it was meant to be. Like, their little noses just weren't terribly defined. And all I could think is, oh my God, could you imagine? Could you losing your child at 39 weeks? Like, had they been taken out sooner, you would have potentially had a live baby. And it was interesting to be in that moment of just having lost, and then all of a sudden feeling more sympathy towards this family that I felt had a greater loss than me, because at least I lost them, you know, when they were still really little. And even though I did feel them move a bit, it wasn't as much. And I mean, my greatest relationship with them, other than, you know, just loving them because they were ours, was the amount of times they made me throw up because I had horrible morning sickness, and fond memories that they created with me through that. But here were these two little girls, and we didn't know they were girls up until they came in with the little pink guards with their feet on them, the feet stamps, because they had been miscarried 4 days beforehand. Their hands were already starting to deteriorate. Interesting fact about miscarriage: the body will actually start to break apart and semi-absorb, and it's really weird because when you have a miscarriage, that can go on for weeks if it's not caught right away. And because we were having twins, we had so many scans that we saw them all the time in ultrasounds. It was pretty much every other week I was getting an ultrasound done. Okay. Sorry, guys. Had to do that. So, I mean, for our little girls, when we did see them in the ultrasounds, they were always interacting with each other because they shared the same everything. I mean, they had their own cords, but it was really funny. Up at, like, the last good image we got of them was at week 11, where you could actually see them, one little head and another little head, and them sitting with each other. And then after that, every ultrasound we went to, they would just be sitting there hitting each other like this. And I would be laying down and they would be sitting straight up, and all you'd see was either their crowns or the crowns of their head or their little bums, and just like little limbs flailing at each other. So we knew they were going to be trouble. But for all the families out there that have lost children, you have my heart. For all the women out there that have had to feel like they're alone, I'm so sorry. For all the men that have felt like they're alone, I'm very sorry. I am just a person who has gone through this experience, and I would be lying if I said it didn't change me, because it has. But I am someone that if you want to talk to, you can talk to me, you can contact me, you can write a message down below, because this is shit, right? And you don't want to, no one ever wants to be in this situation. This is not a club that anyone ever wanted to sign up for, and once you sign up for it, you have this respect and understanding for these other individuals that you meet along the way. But not everybody talks about it. Not everybody has somebody to talk about it. So if you need somebody to talk about it with, I can be your somebody. And I know I look like a freaking mess right now. Because it's not an easy topic to talk about. But I am somebody if you need somebody.